So very grateful to our partners with Office of Public Witness. And we are recording this for you all, our minister members and the presbytery. And I hope you share this also with your congregation members, as they do want to understand ways that they can connect locally and nationally with the passionate issues that are in front of us right now, specifically in DC. So I want to give a shout out to Blair for helping to coordinate us into this. You are still in the process of, for times such as now, is the way we've been framing this. And so continue to join us the first Thursday and third Thursday of every month. So Office of Public Witness members, I'm just gonna, like I said, I just want to start it off. Jimmy and you all introduce yourselves. I would never want to speak for you.
Excellent. Thanks a lot, Tara. We're excited to be here with National Capital Presbytery to talk a little bit about the work of our advocacy offices. As all of you know, we have two offices that do this work. We have the Presbyterian Ministry of the United Nations, which is right across the street from the UN, and we also have the Office of Public Witness. And so we have with us today some of our staff, and we're going to do an introduction. I'm going to show this overall picture of all of our staff very quickly, just so that you can have an overview, but I'm gonna cut this off as we continue to talk. Let's see. All right. So I am Reverend Jimmy Hawkins, and I am the director of both offices. And you see the full screen?
You know, mine did this yesterday. I think there's another screen we're supposed to click on, but when I did a training the other day, this is the presentation mode, and I don't know what, oh, well, maybe use slideshow.
Okay. Let's see if we can do it this way then real quickly. Go up. As always, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and talk while I'm doing this. I'm Reverend Jimmy Hawkins. Is that better?
It's great.
Okay.
We can work with it.
And I've been in this position since 2017. I was a pastor for 25 years in Virginia, North Carolina. And so as the director, especially before the pandemic, it's changed a little bit since the pandemic. I would say about half my time was spent in travel, going around the country, talking to presbyteries and to congregations. The other half was spent directly in DC as I was with the Washington office originally. And we meet with members of Congress. We have conversations, engagements with the White House, also with the State Department in DC. So we are the advocacy agency of the Presbyterian Church. So we are responsible for doing all of your public policy, to inform others about the public policy positions of the PCUSA. And we speak only to the policy positions that the church has policy on. And so we can't go outside of that. But again, we have policy on almost everything. I do try to have as much engagement as possible with members of Congress. It's gotten a little harder since the pandemic, as a lot of our meetings are no longer in person, but with members of staff, which is still legitimate because the staff come in ready to listen. I also am an assistant stated clerk and also on the leadership team for the stated clerk. So I'm going to turn it over to Catherine, who is the person that you see on the screen with the blue scarf on. And Catherine, if you would introduce yourself and talk a little bit about your work, and also introduce Christina.
Sure. I'm Catherine Gordon. I'm the representative for international issues with the Office of Public Witness, and I advocate on issues of global justice concerns before Congress and the administration. I've been doing this for more than 25 years and lead efforts to lift up the voices of Presbyterians in the public square, particularly on issues of peace, global peace and justice and human rights. Some of our main issues right now, the cuts in foreign assistance and USAID, Israel-Palestine and Gaza, Sudan, Cuba, and Congo. My work includes building coalitions and ecumenical and interfaith partnerships to help build the strength of our voice. And I previously served in refugee resettlement and international ministry in Eastern Europe and the Middle East. And Christina Cosby is our representative for domestic and environmental issues. She works on all of the range of issues right now facing our country, including homelessness. She's working on the COP25 coming up in September, poverty, and a range of some of the issues around immigration as well.
Thank you, Catherine. Ivy.
Awesome. Thank you, Jimmy. Hi, my name is Ivy Lopedito, and I serve as the Associate for Young Adult Advocacy and Constituent Engagement with the Office of Public Witness in Washington, D.C. Ultimately, my role is to connect people of faith with advocacy opportunities, whether that's through events, workshops, or social media. I support our team really by organizing key initiatives like the Young Adult Advocacy Conference, which we'll probably talk about a little bit later. It's coming up at the end of September, so about a month away, which we're very excited about. Our summer fellowship program, which just happened in June and July. We had 10 summer fellows with us this summer. And then also just opportunities to really make sure we're staying focused on the issues that matter most to our faith community and making it clear to the Presbyterian Church and beyond the work that we are doing. Also, ultimately, in a nutshell, I basically bridge the gap between policy, advocacy, and the church, empowering individuals to make a difference in the important issues that we face today. And I can hand it over to Andrew.
Great. Yeah, it's good to be with you. I'm Andrew Peterson. I am the representative for peacemaking and gun violence prevention, and I work out of the Office of Public Witness. I have a kind of basket portfolio of some peacemaking related things. So lately we've been doing some work during high summer on the budget. Of course, an enormous amount of the budget goes toward military expenditures, but also now incredible expansions in ICE funding. So working on that, working on some genocide prevention initiatives with coalition partners. We just marked the anniversary of the Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombings, and the denomination's nuclear policies are part of what I work on. And then I also direct the denomination's gun violence ministry, the Decade to End Gun Violence, and we are producing a bunch of great resources, which we hope to get out to you soon, in addition to the advocacy work. So like Catherine and Ivy, I do a mix of everything. Some of our partners and other faith-based communions do just advocacy, but we of course do advocacy and education and coalition building and also mobilization for Presbyterians around the country to help get them engaged with the work that we think of as sharing broadly and not just carrying ourselves. So it's good to be with you all.
And Jimmy, would you like me to briefly introduce both Sue and Claire? Awesome. So you will see they are not with us. They are not with us this afternoon, but they are on the right hand of your screen. Sue Ream. I will start with Sue Ream. She is the representative or the manager to the United Nations. In that role, basically, she represents the concerns of the PCUSA at the United Nations, including to missions, ambassadors, General Assembly, UN agencies. Basically, she advocates for the General Assembly policies of the PCUSA by meeting with members of the Security Council on peace and security issues that are on the council's agenda. So a lot of the work has to do a lot with Israel-Palestine, does work on Colombia, Haiti, DRC, just to name a few. She also participates and provides leadership in NGO coalitions, which is a big part of the UN work, working with groups comprised of ecumenical, interfaith, humanitarian, human rights groups that are working specifically at the UN. And then right next to Sue is Claire Balson, and she is a mission associate at the Ministry of the United Nations. And she helps to carry out the program policies and initiatives and developing programs to engage She does a lot of work engaging Presbyterians and congregations to understanding the UN. And also similar to Christina, she is doing a lot of work on COP. So that's the climate work at the United Nations, which is coming up very soon. She does work on immigration, Israel, Palestine, just to name a few, and really helps connect Presbyterians as well to the work of the UN office and a lot of the resources that come out of the United Nations.
Excellent. Thank you, staff, for talking about the ways in which you do our work. So I've got a couple of things that we do want to share with you, and I'm going to call on my colleagues again to do some of that. One of the things that, Tara, that you mentioned, what are some ways that they can connect with the work that we do? We are a resource for your presbytery and for your congregations. So obviously this digital world has opened up everything. And so we do a lot of Zoom conversations, webinars. We do teaching opportunities with congregations. So that's definitely a way that you can access us. So you can feel free to ask us to do an orientation to our work or to talk about any issue that's going on. A lot of our work is directly engaging with Congress and with the White House. So what you see on CNN and MSNBC and Fox News, whatever they're talking about, that's a lot of times what we're talking about as well. We did a lot of work on the budget, trying to get that budget not to be passed, even though it was a big, beautiful bill, because a lot of it was in opposition to the social witness policies of the church. And so I'm going to ask for my colleagues to talk about some of the things that we do and some other ways to get engaged. Catherine, let's look at the action alerts. I know you and Christina does domestic and you do our international. What's an action alert and how can they get signed up for action alerts?
Sure. So our action alerts are very easy to use. If you sign up on our webpage, I'm not sure what the address of our webpage is right now. Maybe somebody can put it in the chat. But if you can sign up on our webpage and you will get all of our action alerts on the variety of different issues that we're working on. You just plug in your name and address and it will, we encourage you to write, we have a sample email there that you can send and we encourage you to write a personal story maybe, or just, put in some of your own thoughts about the issue to make it more powerful. And then it goes directly to the targets of the action. So it could be just the House or, your senators and members of the administration, president. So it's very easy to use and we really encourage you to sign up and do that.
Okay. Andrew, you've doing a lot of work on gun violence, especially the Decade to End Gun Violence. Talk about how that work is continuing.
So this is a program that started in 2022 and will run through 2032, but kind of builds on decades of Presbyterian leadership on this issue. And it has a few different facets. So one is that there's a recurring grant program that helps fund gun violence related events at local congregations. So if this is something that your congregation would like to do, we have grant monies available. The application form is on our website, pcusa.org/OPW. And it can be any kind of event. A lot of the applications we get are for gun surrenders, where gift cards are purchased in exchange for firearms that are surrendered and destroyed at the church. But they can also be for educational events. They can be for advocacy type events. If you have a gun retailer in your area that's a particular bad actor, there have been advocacy efforts outside of places like that that churches have organized. There's also an educational component. So we have a number of resources that have been developed. There was a real push in the late aughts and early 2010s to produce some resources, and we're updating a lot of those and producing some additional ones right now. We have a video education series coming out this fall that kind of builds on the webinars if you guys were able to attend any of those, but they're with scholars from seminaries and universities around the country talking about how Christian faith intersects with the issue of gun violence. And then we also do resourcing. So in terms of individual congregations and mid-councils who are interested in getting more involved in this issue, we encourage you to reach out and we're happy to help connect you with other folks who have done this work and are doing this work across the denomination and kind of build those relationships so that we are able to share our expertise across geographic lines.
Excellent. And we also have some new endeavors that we are engaged in. We really are trying to up our game as far as our outreach to Presbyterians. Ivy, if you would talk about very quickly the Young Adult Advocacy Conference that you mentioned, and also some of the written resources that we're trying to finalize that we've made a lot of headway on lately.
Yes, thank you, Jimmy. Something that is coming up very shortly, like I had mentioned, is our Jesus and Justice Young Adult Advocacy Conference. So basically, it is a regional conference that brings together young adults, and our young adult ages are 18 to 35 within the Presbyterian Church. So a decently wide range. So many people are welcome to come. And it comes across the country, and we explore how faith and justice are deeply connected. So this year we will be in Lansing, Michigan at the very end of September, which we are very excited about. If you would like more information, we can send you that. We have some resources available for anyone who may want it. Each year, this conference meets basically in a different U.S. city. So the first year we were in Louisville, Kentucky. Last year we were in North Carolina, and this year we are in Michigan. And then we're going back to the East Coast, to Georgia, potentially next year. And basically, it's a chance to learn, grow, and take action together. It's built around a powerful mix of worship, of workshops, community building, keynotes, and honestly, real world advocacy experiences, which we think are very vital for young adults to be a part of. And basically, with the Office of Public Witness and the Presbyterian Ministry of the United Nations, learning how policy works. And a lot of it this year, we are marching to the Capitol for justice, and we do a lot of hands-on justice-focused actions and opportunities to learn and grow. So most young adults will be able to dive into through the workshops a myriad of issues like racial justice, immigration, climate change, housing, and so much more. And this is all through the lens of faith and public witness. And then I'll just briefly mention something as well that is coming out, and then I can hand it over to Catherine about another wonderful resource and an option that we have available to Presbyterians. But like I mentioned previously, we have a fellowship program. We had 10 young adults with us who were just fantastic young adults from college to seminary age. And some of them helped with this resource that we have. It's called Holy Discontentment. And they help to update the resource, which we are so excited to have out in the next few months. So be on the lookout. We could send it to y'all if you want it. And this resource really is designed to help individuals, congregations, and communities faithfully engage in advocacy, organizing, and public witness. It connects our faith to real-world issues like immigration, climate justice, voting rights, racial equity, gun violence prevention, and much more, and really equips us as people, as Presbyterians, to engage leaders at the local, state, and federal levels. So basically, I'll just briefly explain what you'll find inside of this resource. You'll find theological grounding for why advocacy is a spiritual discipline and a core part of discipleship. And then you'll also find information with practical tools. So for writing, calling, and meeting with elected officials, organizing prayer vigils, attending public hearings, and using social media effectively, especially during this time. And then guidance on power in public life, resources for faithful citizenship, and step-by-step strategies for starting advocacy in your own context, choosing issues, planning actions, and sustaining momentum. So above all, this guide really it really reminds us that advocacy is not about politics for its own sake. It is about living our faith in the public square, And it's really about speaking up for our neighbors and centering impacted voices and embodying God's call to do justice, to love kindness, and to walk humbly with our God. And then I can hand it over to you, Catherine.
Great. Yeah. So we also, this year we've started a new effort. There was a big push we were hearing a lot that people wanted ecumenical advocacy days again. So we wanted to give a home base for people to come and learn about the work of advocacy, not only of our office, but also the other offices in the Interim Unified Agency. So we are hosting a series called Presbyterian Advocacy Hour, which is every fourth Wednesday. And we started out with a theology of advocacy, which Jimmy hosted. And then we moved on to different issues. And it's not just a webinar, it's in meeting format. And so we're really trying to cultivate community and organizing so that people can connect, not just with us, but also with each other around issues that they're concerned about. So besides the Presbyterian Advocacy Hour, we also started, because people were requesting it, a community hour, which is every second Wednesday. So the advocacy hour is the fourth Wednesday and the community hour is the second Wednesday. And that is just a place where people can come and connect. So it's an open space for people to come and bring the issues that they want to talk about and organize as they see fit. And some of the other issues that we've covered this year: migration, hunger, education, public education, Palestine and Israel. We just had one on community organizing. And then we also have coming up, in September, the fourth Wednesday, we'll focus on the environment. And then in October on LGBTQ issues.
So Tara, I'm going to mention just a couple more things, because I know you did say you wanted to have some engagement near the end. But this is just about 2/3 of our activities that we offer to Presbyterians. We also do a slew of webinars. The last one that was done, Andrew led one on gun violence. Catherine has led one on Israel-Palestine in their domestic, on peacemaking, and on international issues. And so, again, if you're signed up with our database, then you will get information on the webinars that are coming up. Another piece that Ivy mentioned, we also hire summer fellows who are college students, seminarians, and again, we had our largest group this summer of 10. So the only criteria is that they're in college, and so they can be Presbyterian, which is a slight preference for us, or they can be of any denomination, but it's a paid position and it's been hybrid since the pandemic. We also are very excited about, again, as Ivy mentioned, Holy Discontentment as a written curriculum. We also are working on an advocacy worship manual that we want to distribute throughout the church by the end of the year. And there will be at least 12 of them focusing in on a social justice issue. So these are things that we're doing that we are excited about. And we also want to, again, highlight the fact that we are a resource for Presbyterians. And we're very accessible. They can get our emails from the Presbyterian office, from you, from Blair, or from our web pages. As you were thinking about the things that we were saying, staff, is there anything else that you want to highlight that we're doing? Okay. Tara, did you have any questions for us?
So Jimmy, just in case as members of our presbytery, because you and I have been together often, just gonna say the name is Tara.
Tara.
And unfortunately it's totally out of the Gone with the Wind reference. Like, I'll just say I didn't get to name myself. All right. But with that, I think that I want to amplify how you all have been able to be so accessible that from this desk, we're able to always connect people to the advocacy hour. So in my bi-monthly letter that goes out to the presbytery, it includes the topics that are for the noon advocacy hour, and I do take advantage of those recordings just to let people know who might be first to this, but I think that's been really helpful. And so I just want you to hear that it gives people a thread and a through line of making those touch points. And I think everybody's still learning how to connect with it as we're online more and more. I think I would love to have a refresher for folks of what are the ways, and I know you've named a lot, but what are the ways you would like to see a congregation in the suburbs of DC connect with a local opportunity through your office? What are the ways you would like to see a suburb of our churches?
Yeah, even suburbs are impacted by the issues that are coming out of DC. So one of the things that we do, and one of the things that I wanted to mention, is that we do orientations in our office where groups will come in And as a part of that, oftentimes we will set up a lobby visit with their members of Congress. So I think that would be very beneficial to have an engagement either with the member of Congress or with staff on a particular issue when that issue is a hot issue. You know, it's very important that we deal with issues as they're being addressed. For example, we made mention of the budget bill. A month and a half ago was the time to address that issue and talk about it. So one of the things that they can do is to find ways of engagement with their member of Congress. But I would also say, if they really want to have a quicker impact, that they want to reach out to their state legislators and also their local legislators, the mayor and the member of their city council. So I had a conversation with one of the churches in your presbytery, and they had set up a social justice committee. And they had set up 5 justice items to address that issue. And through a conversation between us, we decided that they would only do 1 issue a year. So one of the things that I would say, don't try to do too much. Don't try to bite off too much, because the reality is going to be you're not going to change the world in just 1 year, even 2 years. So try to do things that are pretty reachable. Try to have some ways in which you can address those issues that are pretty practical, and also be very patient and try to avoid burnout, because this work is vitally important, but it also can be very tiring, very frustrating when we see that we're working so hard and yet little changes. But when change comes, and this is what we really want to motivate people with, usually change is big, especially on the federal level, because you're making change that impacts not only the entire country, but the global community as well. Any other statements from my colleagues?
Yeah, most of our work is done ecumenically and interfaith and even in broader coalitions. So we have a lot of opportunities in terms of protests, vigils, you know, coming into the office and having a briefing, you know, doing coalition work and doing Hill visits, you know, together in these ecumenical working groups. So if people are interested in a specific issue, please feel free to contact us. You know, we had a candlelight vigil on the mall for Sudan. We have a Churches for Middle East Peace conference coming up in the spring. So there are a lot of, and we are official members of those coalitions. So it's another way that Presbyterians can get involved locally and be present in DC.
It's great. That's excellent.
The last thing I might just add is that I oftentimes try to remind churches that, you know, when they're thinking about their political engagement, to not discount the work that they do in their own congregations. That there's oftentimes a feeling that the kind of work that we're talking about here, the direct advocacy in DC, is really like somehow a notch above other kinds of political work. But you know, the political scientists tell us that in times they're as polarized as this, and when people have as much difficulty talking about and convincing other people of some of these issues, that places like churches where people of different opinions and different backgrounds come together and share a story and a set of values, that there's real political work being done there, and people are formed and minds are changed and that kind of thing. So that's, I think, something never to downplay, and to keep that in mind as you think about how to extend that witness and engage in some new and different ways.
I love how all 3 of you got to that point. So one of the tools that we use with our congregations is the church assessment tool, and there's a barometer mark on there about how adaptive the congregation is as a culture overall, and it's used with their theological presence and mindset, and also their flexibility barometer. And those 2 things get intersected, and when we see our congregations able to reflect the adaptability of holding space for a diverse biblical conversation, that becomes a very directed opportunity that we say to the congregation that you are so unique in times such as now, right? And what that means. And so I just want to amplify why it's important to lead in that space and to become those intergenerational and intersectional spaces of theological perspectives. So that's been something that churches still get nervous about, And so we're offering them what are the strengths in that. So I appreciate making that connection.
And Karen,
Andrew, I was going to ask Andrew if you could give us an example of what has been a grant request around non-gun violence, anti-gun violence pieces. There are some congregations in our presbytery in DC that have really focused a lot on the t-shirt witness practice. And it's time to kind of reinvent, I think, that vigor and maybe with a different way. So I'd love to hear new examples.
Yeah, that's great. So yeah, there's a couple of like very popular things that lots of Presbyterian churches do. One is a sort of t-shirt memorial. It's a form of public witness where you identify especially local victims of gun violence. You write their names and their dates on a t-shirt, and then you put them out somewhere visible, a lot of times on the church's property, kind of facing a road. Invites people to slow down and stop and think about and bear witness to the people in their own community that they've lost to gun violence. We've certainly funded events like that. Our kind of most popular one, as I was saying, are these gun buyback events. So there's a kind of direct action here of removing firearms from the community and enticing people to come and surrender firearms that they no longer want in their homes by exchanging them for grocery store gift cards. We support those and we do a lot of those kind of events. But there's, I think, a ton of room to think creatively. So as you are in touch with your own congregations and thinking about where they're at on gun violence and what kinds of witness make sense in your community, there's really kind of no limit to the sorts of things that we're willing to address here and help promote. So we're really here to just kind of be an enabler for whatever makes sense at the local level, not to tell you what works and what doesn't. So if you have an idea, we're happy to be a sounding board for that. But we're really here to kind of enable and spread that witness.
Thank you. Jimmy, I'm sorry I cut you off.
no, I was just going to say, I think you hit on a vital point because a lot of churches get a little antsy when you start talking about justice issues. They don't want to bring controversy and conflict into the church. So one of the things that we talk about is to find advocacy as a spiritual discipline. That's a part of your faith walk, and that we're witnesses in the public sphere to Christ, and especially to encourage our members to have their Christian identity to be their primary identity and not their political identity, because oftentimes that's the dividing point where you're red, I'm blue, things along that line. But we're all Christians and we're all here for the same purpose.
I love it. I love it. To share with you all as you're connecting with other churches, I'm just adding to the chat what's become a local organizing across pastors in the presbytery. So they started a ministry of presence witness in June in response, like a counter response to the No Kings. I mean, there's a time for No Kings, but also the counter to the military parade. And this was just a time of offering a space for prayer or care around targeted metro spaces. And several pastors who did that, it was their first time ever putting their bodies as well as their self, in a public sphere in that way. And we did a local brief training about it, connecting with community organizing practices, of course, Catherine. And so that has then given other pastors who have never done these kinds of spiritual practices before a chance to identify other spaces. And so one will be this coming Monday around DC for the first day of school. And also giving people a chance to remember who are some local ecumenical partnerships. So we've been kind of creating that because some pastors are ready to just go, go, go. And we always say, well, wait, let's contact the DC education office, or let's just find out what they're doing too, right? And so that'll be for the 25th, and then September 2nd, the Tuesday after Labor Day weekend for workers coming back in. And so it's a small and mighty, but it's always a different group of people that we're noticing right now, kind of leaning and learning how to stretch in this spiritual practice. So that's just to share with y'all how it's still, I had to be reminded of how new those kinds of practices still are for people in our churches, mainly our pastors. So this has been a bit of an education. So we're doing once a month how to be not a non-anxious presence in those spaces. We've been doing those online trainings with pastors. So
Excellent, excellent.
yeah.
And on that note, I would say again, we want to leave all of the pastors with the invitation to come by the office to meet with us, have conversations with us. Especially, we want to get you in the office, Washington office, and also to bring groups. We have middle school groups, high school groups, college kids come in, and sessions come in, and committees of the church, Sunday school classes come in, just to be oriented, and also to do a lobby visit, and also to inform us about what's going on locally. There's some way that we can lift our voice or share with you resources to aid you in all the work that's being done locally.
Here's a creative question. I bet it's only creative in my head, and it's been happening before. Have any of y'all, this is very selfish, been invited to a confirmation class or discussion before? No. Well, this is not, well, our presbytery, we do a presbytery-wide confirmation program every other year. And it's a way to bring churches with smaller groups of youth to have a bigger class, right? And so we do it once a month. And so I would love to, and now we have the leaders of the churches, not just the pastors, they're rotating teaching the confirmation class. So I would love to invite y'all. Let's find a date. And it is on Sunday afternoon, so just think about that. But we could find a date, and we rotate to different churches, mainly in Northeast and on the Maryland side. It's predominantly our congregations with solo pastors or supply pastors, and they deserve the support. So I don't know why I just thought of that right now, but that's why we do these connection moments, because I would love for them to hear from you all and share about that. We'll be having an event in October, Praying with Our Feet, bringing a young adult leader from Charlottesville, Virginia, Zy Bryant, who did the initiating of trying to get the statues out of Charlottesville. But we'll do a labyrinth walk and how you do justice prayer with your feet. So yeah, y'all should, yes, I will send an invitation.
Excellent, excellent. Yes.
Great. Well, thank you each of you for your time, your tireless passion. I always try and ask this question. I don't want it to be heard as cheesy. It really is just where, what it feels like for you. But I have witnessed each of you to show up just even in this Zoom gathering in a way with some joy or some hope, some energy in your voices. And people feel very tired and rage against the machine sometimes. But what does that mean to you as to why are you still showing up with joy?
Go ahead. I'll follow my colleagues.
I can start because this is something that I think a lot of us are trying to figure out and work through as we continue to do this very vital work that can be very, very, very tiring. And we've seen this with staff, but also in a lot of the work with young adults, just how exhausting all of this really can be. But time and time again, I remember how important it is to take care of ourselves, our souls, our body, mind, spirit, and specifically for me to continue to show up. We got to be filled back up. And in my way, honestly, is to find joy in the little things and to get for me, especially during the summer, it's getting out and taking those walks daily, and finding God. And for me, it's in the beauty of nature and in the animals and all those different things. So for me, to restore myself, to be able to, so I can continue to pour out, being able to be poured into in that way is vital. But also, I have to say, spiritual direction is always something that I am consistently doing as we continue so I meet with a director once a month, as I kind of process through God, where God is in my life and in this moment, and then be able to continue to do this work and work with my colleagues. But we also have a fantastic group of colleagues that we get to work alongside consistently, and it really matters who you work with. So I'm blessed to be with all of these fantastic colleagues to continue to do this vital, vital work.
Yeah, and I just want to reiterate our colleagues and our office staff is great, UN office, and then also our ecumenical colleagues and the community of witnesses that we're working with is very inspirational. And I think over the years I've learned to let go of the outcome, that it's almost like a way of life, and I always think, well, what would if the church weren't here, because DC is full of political organizations that can be very strident, and I feel like we bring this different voice, a transformative voice, that it's unique and it's valuable, and it needs to be present in the public square. And I think also that our young adults just really inspire me. And I always learn from them. The other summer, I was about to take vacation. I felt guilty, and my intern said, rest is resistance. And so I had never thought about it that way. And so now, like, I always think about that when I'm about to go on vacation tomorrow. So resistance. And then my intern this summer wrote a little thing for our report article, and reflected on the fact that she had such an enjoyable summer, like working and learning, and how much it was valuable to her, but that she realized that it was because of she was working on Israel-Palestine, and she said it relied on the fact that all of these people were in the trauma and the horror that's happening, and how does she reconcile this amazing experience she had working on this horror, and she came to the conclusion that it's only by accident of birth that we are not a person in Gaza or a refugee or an immigrant being deported, and then we always have to keep the the face, God's image in the other, always in the forefront of our advocacy.
Well, I don't know that I have anything super novel to add, but I will echo what my colleagues have said. I think, for me personally, there's, really two pieces of it that are key. One is just like how grateful I am for our theological heritage that helps me think about our politics not as something that God is distant from or antagonistic to, but as deeply involved in and cares deeply about the nations and the way that they create and shape the sorts of life that we're able to share together. And so it helps me always to remember that God is not distant or requiring me or you or somebody else to be engaged in this, but already there and already working, and that we're trying to join in on that work. And then the other thing, like my colleagues have said, is just like, I don't show up every day with joy for it, but it is easy to get carried along by the care and concern and joy that other people that you work closely with bring. And so it's part of why the work it's so important that it's done in community and done connectionally, done with coalitions, is that everybody on a different day is going to come with a spirit that's going to help energize and move everybody else, especially when things are really heavy. So those are things that I encourage you all to take on as well.
Tara, I think I should have went first because I have nothing new to add either. God, one of the parts of our Reformed faith, our tradition says that one of the dominant attributes of God is God of justice. So as Andrew said, God is not absent. God is present. As a matter of fact, God is being crucified on a daily basis for the sins of the world. And so God cares. God is compassionate. God is involved in everything that's going on. Every unjust situation, God is making some miracle happen. But also, as all of my colleagues have said, my colleagues that I work with, it is a joy to work with both offices. We all get along wonderfully, and I consider them to be my friends. And that really, I can honestly say I've never had a conversation with any of our staff wherein there was a negative feeling at the end of it, where we got into an argument or something. And the passion that they have, and they take seriously their call. This is a calling from God to do this work, and they have a passion for justice in everything that we do. And so that really helps me each and every day. And lastly, I will say, I am very energized by the response of Presbyterians across the country to the offices and the work that we do. Many Presbyterians still do not know that we have these two offices from the extremes. We go from peacemaking to our conferences, to international work, to domestic work, and they are excited about the fact that we have these two offices. So I'm feeling that the support for our offices is continuing to grow around the country and throughout the church.
That's fantastic, y'all. Joy for me still shows up in the one-to-one relationships. Being one at one of our ministry of presence witness, one of our pastors shared that he's out of McLean, but he came to LaFont Plaza and he's holding the poster and he drew the Presbyterian symbol and actually said, "Here with prayers." And I was teasing him about drawing the Presbyterian symbol because, like, whatevs. And a person walks up to him and says, "Well, it's about time to see the Presbyterians right now." And it sparked in him and in me. And it's that one-to-one, but we got to put ourselves out there in order for people to also hear that great foundational theology and history and to show up with these ecumenical partnerships. So thank y'all completely with the work and the effort. And you will be hearing, I have faith, from others in our presbytery about ways that they can expand the impact that y'all are leading us through. Thank you so much, y'all.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. I know the time. I'm going to cancel now.